Today we're on a heavily fished river. It is 2 weeks since opening day on perhaps the most popular river in the region. It has a reputation for quality fish, and that attracts a lot of anglers. All wild fish fully catch and release. Fishing pressure has been high with good weather, but the water is low for this time of year already, and I'm fishing it on a weekend. We're going to closely examine one section of the river about 200 feet long, above and underneath the water, both before and after fishing it intensely. We're going to look at where the fish are sitting, see where they are caught, and then highlight any changes that occur. Let's get to it. I am breaking this run into 3 sections. The first is the deeper water near the tailout that has numerous man-sized boulders and portions of slow water and mixed currents. It gets over 5 feet deep. The water closer to us is very shallow, and then it deepens right around where the bubble lines are. The middle section is just upstream. That visible boulder on the top left is the same one in the top of the previous section. This area contains the main transition zone where the faster water from the shallow water above flows into the deep area and starts to slow. You can usually make out the transition zone by the change in the color of the water. In this case, it's not a straight drop off, but it deflects to the left caused by that large boulder. The third section is the shallower, faster water upstream, which ranges from about 6 inches to about 2.5 feet deep and is very oxygen rich. The slightly deeper portion in this area is the darker water near the shadow lines. Here I have an image that shows all 3 sections combined, which we shall mark up later on showing where the fish are. Now, let's go under the water. This is the bottom third of the run, and I haven't started fishing it yet. We spot our first rainbow in the distance as it passes by this sharp-edged rock. Then we continue to pan downstream. It's quiet water for a bit. Lots of sharp-edged rocks and not smooth, rounded boulders. But then we spot a second rainbow near a whitish rock, not close to the rock though, maybe 2 feet back. It does seem to be actively feeding. But now let's move up the run another 25 feet or so. We are about even with that sharp-edged rock now. There's a fish mid-water a couple of feet in front of the rock. Based on the white-tipped fins, I initially suspect this to be a bull trout, but later found out it was actually a rainbow, as we will see in a little while. Then we see another rainbow move rather quickly next to the rock. This is actually one of the 2 fish we saw before, and I suspect it is moving deeper in reaction to me and the camera being there. But it adjusts very quickly. You can see it's feeding already. As we watch these 2 fish, both are feeding on nymphs. They're moving and ranging a fair bit through the water column. This is where I noticed that the fish I thought was a bull trout was actually a rainbow, just darkly colored and still displaying the colors after spawning. Sometimes it's amazing the different colorations rainbow trout come in even when they're out of the same system and the same genetic strain. Let's go up another 40 or 50 feet or so we can get closer to where those larger boulders were in the overhead shot. It looks like a terrific spot, but I only see one fish to the left and it isn't all that close to the bigger rocks. More mid-river by some smaller rocks. And like all of them thus far though, it's feeding. I thought I might see more here, but I don't. We move another 20 feet or so to be even with that large exposed boulder. It looks deep with lots of rocks, but no fish. I find that odd as it seems a good spot and I definitely would have fished it, but it is very quiet. Let's move further up to the transition area where the water just starts to deepen from the shallower water. There is one trout at least chasing some food items aggressively. Like most we have seen, it willingly moves for food. It's hanging out near the far bank, but it is also moving around a lot, staying far from us though. Let's go even further up now, maybe 50 feet or so more into the water that is less than knee deep. You can see looking up that the water surface is far more broken here. There's a partially sunken tree, but right by it isn't any fish surprisingly. Perhaps not big enough to attract fish to it for cover and to use as a current break. Let's pan downstream though. And there's a fish appearing on the left of the screen, but it moves away quickly and calmly, perhaps not liking us. It was sitting somewhat in open water, but I suspect where it was actually where that fallen tree was diverting or funneling all surface material, i.e. bugs. Insects would drift downstream, hit that log, and get funneled in a tight group to that trout waiting just below. Let's move down with the current to see if I missed any fish as I walked by. Yep, there's another, and feeding just like all of them. And a second right behind it. These are the first fish in this run that have stayed close enough that we can actually make out some definition. But now that we have looked around, let's point out these fish on the overhead shot. Here are the locations of the trout on the overhead stitched image. The fish in the middle of the run are spread out. Only when we get to the faster water near the head do we see fish sitting closer together. I suspect the reason for this is because at the head of the run is where the most food items, in line with that partially submerged tree, are being funneled and concentrated into a narrow band before being dispersed further down the run in the slow water. That suggests it is the richest spot in the run for actively feeding trout, and the abundance of food is enough that the fish don't have to aggressively compete with each other. There is more than enough food for all the fish there so they can take and tolerate each other with no problems. I would expect that at the head of the run I should do fairly well when I start to fish, which is what I'm about to do now. There's actually a decent breeze blowing, just a steady constant breeze from my right, from upstream. It's going to be impacting my fly as it drifts a little bit. Working my fly a little bit further out there and a little bit more of a horizontal shaft. Yeah, there we go. Angle to the leader. Nice fish. Good way to start the session off. He's got some spunk. You gotta love it when they jump 2 feet away from you. Oh, there's another one chasing right behind him, and that's a bull trout. So the rainbow is about a pounder, 12 inches, 30 centimeters. And a bull trout, only maybe about 2 or 3 pounds, right up on him. Just seeing, hey, why is that rainbow trout struggling? And can I eat him? Or can I at least eat what he's eating? Let's get this guy in. And we'll eventually work that bull trout. All right. And that's a beautiful, beautiful wild rainbow. Oh yeah, there we go. Whoa. That was a hard hit. He's all over the place. The wind just died down too, which let me get a real nice drift through there. Nice rainbow. Yeah. Reasonably tired out. Here we go. Nice fish. Sometimes in the water's slower, shallower and faster like this, the fish do miss the fly. Everything's going by and pretty fast, and yeah, that was a fish. It was. He just missed it a couple of times, or I missed him. Depends how you look at it, but he made no mistake about it that time. Sometimes in that fast, shallow water, that fly's whipping by those fish pretty quick, and they don't necessarily get every one they go for. There we go. Right in that shallow water there. Took that fast. Took it fast as you would expect them to do in the shallow water. Fish react very quickly in shallow water because they have to. Everything's coming by them pretty quickly. I'm just gonna walk them a little. He's not a huge fish, but I'm just gonna walk him a little bit more where there's a little bit slacker water here. Easier for him, easier for me. Oh yeah. And in the net. Nice rainbow. And the hook came right out. Beautiful. Switched over to a streamer right now. I'm gonna nymph that through here, jig it through here. See if I can pull up anything else after catching a bunch on a nymph. You know, a streamer's of a decent size and all that when you can literally see it in the water, drifting down 4 feet deep and 30 feet away from you, and yeah, you can just see it. Kind of great, allows you to sight. Oh, there we go. Oh, not a big fish, but saw him chase it anyways. Thought he had it. I think he thought he had it too. Let's see what happens if I bring it by him again. Where he's moved to, I'm not too sure. Yep. And there he is. I'm sure that was the same one. Bring him over to the slower part of the water. Oh, actually feels like a good fish. I think looks can be deceiving underneath the water. Oh, this might actually be a bull. Can't quite tell, but bring him over to the slower water. Not because I'm worried about him spooking the other fish, although that can be a factor. More, it's a lot easier to land the fish. Yeah, I think that may be a bull, the way he's dogging and holding down there. It's not a giant bull trout, but it's a probably at least a 2-pound fish. So he's, you know, it's a bull trout when he's walking his way upstream. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Rainbows will do that too, but I want him to come down to the slow water. He's deciding he's going to go all the way upstream. No jumps, just I'm going to pull you and your fly line wherever I want to take it. Beautiful spotted fish. I saw him chase one of my rainbows earlier, so I knew he was in here. Not a big fish, but still. We'll see how big he is when I get him in. Right now he's holding pretty tight, just dogging the way the bull trout do, which is sometimes makes for a bit of a longer battle than what you expect with a rainbow, or what you'll get with a rainbow. So, but he's making sure he goes to every part of the pool and says hello to everybody and say, hey, look what I got. Come on. I think he's kind of tuckering out a little bit. You say that though, and that's when you lose him. Again, not a big fish, but he's just a beautiful looking fish. There we go. I think we might win this battle yet. It's taking a lot longer than I would have thought for sure to bring him in. I guess he's nice. There we go, boy. Oh, he's probably a good 3-4 pounder. Let's just watch him swim away here. He's gonna rest in some shallow water, right where he has some good current. He's gonna just get some oxygen going through his gills. You can just see himself working it there. There he goes. Oh, gorgeous fish. Nice to give him just a minute there to recuperate and send himself back off into that run. I was mentioning earlier, one of the fun things about fishing a streamer is you can really sight fish with it. I mean, you can follow your fly through the water due to its size, and you can see when fish make a move for it. And oftentimes they'll come back for that streamer. And clearly, rainbows will take a streamer just as much as a bull trout. Nice thing about a jumping fish, he does tire himself out quicker. Let you get him in and recover, give him some recuperation time. There we go. Whew, what a wind. It's a good time to be fishing. Slightly bigger streamer. It holds itself down in the water nicely. It doesn't sink as fast due to the bulky materials and stuff like that, but the same principle that keeps a fly from sinking fast also keeps it from coming back up out of the deeper water to the surface very quickly. Those same materials that create that bulk, that make it slower to sink, make it slower to come up to you. And obviously this rainbow didn't have a problem with it. Oh, nice one. Oh, there we go. Literally see the fish take that fly. It's nice. Still in somewhat of the slower, deeper water on the inside seam here, so. Oh, and there's one right there. So this is still more the typical streamer water. Oh, he tired himself pretty good. I would almost hazard a guess that I may have hooked this fish before and landed him, considering how tired he was when he came in. Well, I wouldn't say tired, he's pretty rambunctious right now, but the fact that he came in a bit quicker. Yeah, it's one right there. Oh, love those jumpers. They tuck themselves out that way, but there we go. Before we look underwater at the fish after fishing, let's have a glance at where we caught fish relative to where we initially spotted them before fishing. On the stitched image, where we initially spotted fish is represented by the yellow dots, and where I actually caught fish is marked with the blue dots. At a quick glance, there's a strong correlation between the two, and we should expect so. Where we saw fish is, surprise surprise, where we caught fish. The two things I would note though, first is that the curved transition zone produced several fish, which is normal, but we didn't actually see any fish in that spot when looking at it before. So that is interesting to me. The second thing is that in 45 minutes I caught almost twice as many fish as we actually saw with the camera. I think that suggests that a lot of those fish were sitting out of sight when the camera was under the water and perhaps came out more so either after the camera was removed or in response to the other fish being caught. Let's see what it looks like under the water now after having fished the run. Here we are post-fishing now. Starting at the lower part of the run, the first trout we see is in the same spot we saw fish earlier, behind a white rock. I would guess it is the same fish, I can't confirm it though. However, as the camera pole swings by it, still far away mind you, it clearly moves away, perhaps on edge. We can't say for sure it is extra wary, but generally fish don't swim up current without a reason. Then we see two trout tied against a big rock where there were no fish earlier before when I started fishing. This could suggest that those two fish were ones that I hooked and have retreated closer to the slower water tail section and are hiding closer to the rock to recover or hide. So far we've only spotted 3 trout, all at the bottom of the run, which is far less than we saw beforehand and way less than I caught. I did catch several fish near the top area, so I wanted to investigate there now. Here we are in that shallower chute of faster water where we saw 3 trout before feeding, a little downstream from the fallen tree. Here we find 1 trout. though tight to the far bank and very tough to see. Certainly nothing close to us. Now let's look at an overhead view marking where all the fish were either spotted or caught. The blue dots mark where the fish were seen before fishing. The yellow are those I caught, and the red are the fish we saw after fishing. We were able to see far fewer fish after than we were before, and all those were near the tail of the run or tight against the far bank or rock structure. That differs from what we saw before fishing, where the fish were mid-water, more exposed, and there was a good cluster near the head. And it differs from where we caught fish, which was virtually everywhere. Total number of fish visible has greatly diminished too, with only 4 being spotted after the fishing pressure. What can we conclude from this footage? First off, we need to clarify that the very far bank and the far side of many of the boulders was too difficult to properly see. Based on the fact that we only saw roughly half the fish I caught and far fewer after fishing, that implies to me that a number of those fish were in those spots. We can't prove that, but by process of elimination, that's the only spot they could be. And it makes sense. It is shadier, has more broken rock, and a steep bank, all excellent sources of shelter or cover. This is a heavily fished river. None of the fish are stocked. It is a catch and release wild fishery, and with our catches ranging from about 30 to 50 centimeters in size, none of these fish were under 2 years of age, probably all in the 2 to 3 year old range. With the intense pressure they have seen, these fish reacted with a lot of wariness once hooked, and they went looking for cover. I will add too that when I started videoing, it was maybe 9 AM. When I did the second round of video after fishing, it was probably closer to about 10:30. Although it is a mountainous area and still late in the morning, the sun was certainly higher than it was 90 minutes beforehand. And that has to be factored into making the fish more wary, despite the good depth in the run. Between the sun, recent angler pressure, and myself hooking 15 fish in about 45 minutes, these fish were no longer in any mood to be sociable, and they'd moved either downstream or to the further bank with the most structure and the least sun. That suggests to me the following in a situation of decent-sized fish in a highly pressured system. Early in the day, especially after having a night's rest from angling pressure, you can expect these fish to be feeding actively. It may not matter if they've been caught numerous times in the recent weeks, they're still going to feed, and they're going to do that early in the morning and late evening. At those times, you can target the trout right in the traditional spots, the head of the run, along the transition zones or drop-offs, and within a few feet of any large boulders. The fish are going to move for your flies a couple of feet, as the underwater footage was showing. But after a number of those fish have been hooked, by you or another angler, and once the sun is on the water, you need to start looking at the tailouts where the water slows and tighter to the boulders. Your casting is going to have to be more precise to target those fish as well, as they're not going to be willing to move as much. And you're going to have to get deeper to the fish with longer, thinner tippet and longer drifts. As we witnessed today, that is where the fish went to, and you have to be prepared to reach them there. But also, recall how the fish reacted to the larger streamer. I fished that after I had nymphed the run with a hare's ear nymph and a pheasant tail, and I can confidently say that even after being pressured, the rate at which the fish targeted that streamer was probably 3 times as fast as they did with the nymphs. And this isn't necessarily a big baitfish river system at all. I think the reason for this was more so that it was a fresh change from when I was offering the fish, a bigger meal ticket, and likely different than the dries and nymphs that other anglers are chucking at them. I think also it was a heavier pattern that with its bulk stayed closer to the deep water where the fish were scared to leave. That really helped pull a lot more fish out of a run that had already been heavily pressured. I hope this information helps give you a better understanding of the trout's world and how we can enjoy fishing for them more. And I hope you'll tune in for the next video. Thank you for watching.